I pressed the hem of my navy dress flat with the hotel iron, while the florist pinned white roses to table numbers I'd paid for, and my daughter walked by the prep room, didn't look at me, and called out, "Staff?" in front of her new in-laws. "You're watching Revenge Files. Subscribe for a new twist daily." They laughed at my off-rack dress and my thrifted flats that carried me through 2 winters of double shifts, and I smiled because the venue contract, the bar minimum, and the little blue bungalow they planned to move into on Sunday all had my name on them. I'm Nora, 52, a charge nurse at Fairview Hospital in Cleveland, Ohio. I raised my daughter Elise alone after her father moved to Florida when she was 9. I don't wear resentment as jewelry. I wear a watch I can read in the dark, a badge, and comfortable shoes you can run in when someone stops breathing. When Elise got engaged to Brandon Rourke last year, I did the math the way nurses do, by triaging. I put $8,000 down to reserve the Lakeside Harbor Ballroom for June 15. I signed a separate addendum for the open bar minimum, $14,500 before service. I paid $3,200 to the band to lock the date and told myself it was an investment in her start. Except the Rourkes treated investment like entitlement. At the first tasting, Brandon's mother, Priscilla, watched me spoon a bite of salmon and said, "Invisible staff should eat in the back." Elise laughed. She said, "Mom, she's kidding. The joke never had a punchline that included me. I kept copies. I file everything. It's a habit you learn from charting. If it isn't written, it didn't happen." I saved emails where Priscilla corrected my grammar in a group thread about linens. It's "fewer chairs, dear." And I saved the invoice where I moved the bar package off my card with a conditional form the event manager slid across the table. Host may transfer payment responsibility at any time before last call with a signed instruction. I initialed it. She initialed it. Noted. But the real leverage lived at 1188 Larchmont Avenue, a little blue bungalow in Lakewood, with a porch swing and a maple that dripped helicopters in spring. I bought it in March for $236,000, with savings and a small HELOC, planning to quitclaim it to Elise and Brandon as a wedding gift on Monday, June 17th. My name sat on the deed, and the keys sat in a white kitchen bowl by my back door. The quitclaim documents were drafted by a real estate attorney named Walt Hendry. His retainer was $820. The distribution letter wasn't signed yet. It could wait. They didn't know that part. 2 days before the wedding, I delivered the ribbon-wrapped honeymoon envelope to the planner, shuttle confirmations, hotel sheets, and the printout for their 2-night lake cottage, with a zeroed-out balance under my American Express. If anything changes, I told the planner, I'll text the word basil. It means cancel the bar tab transfers and call me before anyone swipes. She raised an eyebrow. Basil? Like the herb? I said, like the thing you pinch off clean when it's time. On the wedding morning, I watched Elise float in a cloud of tulle across the suite, followed by 3 bridesmaids and a ring light. She looked like the picture I'd carried in my wallet since she was 3, and fell asleep with a plastic tiara digging into her forehead. She didn't look like my little girl exactly, but she looked like the future I had worked double for. I didn't cry. I taped the hem of my dress where it frayed. The photographer staged a first look for the groom. "No mother of the bride shot?" I asked gently. The planner squeezed my arm. "Timeline's tight," she whispered. Priscilla strutted in a beaded champagne sheath and patted my shoulder. "We'll get you in later, dear. Let staff do staff." At the ceremony, the priest mispronounced our name. He said no Ra Martinez like he was reading a blood pressure. I didn't correct him. I held the bouquet when they needed a hand and sat where the program assigned me. Row 3, Sita, behind a cousin who posted everything on Instagram with the caption #RourkeRoyalty. The laughing started after the vows. The DJ called the Rourke's table to drink first. At the request of the groom's family, he announced cheerfully, and the bartender poured top-shelf bourbon for men who spoke loudly about golf. I carried a glass of water to the sweetheart table because Elise had a history of fainting when she didn't drink enough, and I set it down quietly behind her plate. "Staff, that's for back of house," Priscilla said over her shoulder. Elise didn't turn around. "Mom, don't fuss," she murmured, same tone she used when she was 13, and thought my warnings about curfew were a superstition. By dinner, someone had moved my place card 1 table back. I ate chicken that went dry under a heat lamp and looked at the high-ceilinged hall that still smelled faintly like the yacht club it used to be. The chandelier crystals I'd dusted on an overtime break sparkled like teeth. But then the speeches. The best man joked about my budget bridesmaid dress, the gold-trimmed kind from a mall kiosk. People laughed in that way crowds laugh, more air than humor, a learned response. My fork paused above the green beans. I put it down. I have rules at work. One of them is, don't make decisions angry. I don't suture with shaking hands. I don't push epinephrine because someone insulted me. I breathe through my nose for 7 counts, out for 7 counts, and let the numbers wash. I watched my daughter take the mic. She told a story about Brandon learning to grill and melting a spatula. She giggled. Then she glanced toward the vendor's door, where I stood because there weren't enough chairs. "We are so grateful for everyone," she said. "Even the staff. They made this day happen. It wasn't a slip, it was a choice." I inhaled the string of 7 counts and tasted something like pennies. The planner looked at me, horror-struck. She knew my name. The photographer looked at me, then looked away. "Mom," Elise said when she stepped off the dais. "Can you take our cards and gifts to the car? We don't want them left out." She handed me a stack of envelopes thick enough to alter the line of her bodice. She didn't look me in the eyes. "We need the mic back," she added, like I'd asked for it. I nodded. I carried the gifts to my Civic and set them on the back seat. Inside the top envelope was a handwritten card from an aunt who couldn't make it, with a check for $500 and a note, "For the house paint, love, Loretta." I eased the door shut and stood still under the loading light as the DJ pumped bass through the wall. My phone buzzed. It was a text I'd saved from 2 months ago when Elise asked if she could make the bungalow more us. "Can we paint the living room, Sage?" she'd written. I'd answered, "It's your house as soon as I sign. Pick your Sage. As soon as I sign." I walked back through the kitchen, past racks of plates. The chef nodded. He'd seen worse. He'd seen better. He'd seen fathers crying in alleys and bridesmaids cutting off their own dresses because a seam popped in the bathroom. When I reached the edge of the dance floor, Brandon's father raised his glass. To the bride's mother, he called out loudly, "May she learn the difference between guests and staff." People tittered. My ears rang. I raised my hand for the mic. The DJ hesitated. The planner stepped forward, eyes wide. "You don't have a speech on the program," she whispered. "I have 1 sentence," I said. My voice was steady. The DJ handed me the mic because there are moments when you recognize a nurse tone, the one that doesn't bluff. I walked up 3 steps to the dais, set the mic stand lower, cleared my throat, and looked only at my daughter. I remembered the night she had a fever of 103 and clutched my sleeve, whispering, "Don't leave." I had not left. "This will be quick," I said into the mic, my voice carrying smooth across glass and silverware. "I love you, Elise, and I wish you both a healthy life. Effective now, I'm revoking every gift I promised but haven't signed, including the house at 1188 Larchmont, and any unpaid balances tonight moved to the Rourke family's card on file." Silence swallowed the hall. Even the ice in glasses stopped clinking. Then a rustle rose, not words yet, just breath. Priscilla's smile didn't crack at first, it slid. The groom blinked. Elise froze, chin lifted like a ballerina on a wobble board. The planner was ready. She moved like a shortstop. She walked straight to the bar captain, said Basil, and the captain nodded and slid a new card form across to Brandon's father with a pen. The captain's hands didn't shake. Bartenders are good in storms. One problem, Priscilla didn't sign. Instead, she stepped up to the dais and hissed, "You can't do that. We will sue you for emotional distress." I didn't whisper. "Read your emails," I said calmly. "The open bar is transferable before last call. I signed that addendum in April. As for the house, a quitclaim deed isn't valid until it's executed and recorded. Walt Hendry can explain, but the short version is, I didn't sign. There's no transfer to sue me over." The bandleader set his trumpet down. A cousin stared at his phone. The photographer took a photo of nothing, probably because his training told him to keep clicking when air goes weird. Elise found her voice. "Mom," she said softly, "don't do this, not here." "You did this here," I said, still calm. "I asked for 5 minutes earlier to say what every mother says. You removed my name from the program and put me behind the happy cousins. I brought water because you faint, and you called me staff into a microphone I paid for. For a long second I thought she would say the thing that untangles, the apology, the step toward me. But she didn't. She looked to her new mother-in-law instead, and I watched the lines snap. The room started buzzing with the frantic hum weddings make when something unscripted crashes the choreography. The planner moved the timeline forward by instinct, signaling the band to play a slow song. The DJ nodded, and a Sinatra track floated out like a life raft. People climbed aboard the melody because people like to pretend. I didn't take the mic back. I walked off the dais, past two groomsmen who found fascinating stains on their cuffs, and out through the service corridor, where the chef leaned on a rack of trays and raised his eyebrows. "You all right?" he asked. "I'm fine," I said. "I'm going to make a call." I stepped into the alley between the ballroom and the boathouse. The lake wind carried the smell of algae and thunder far away. "I dialed Walt Hendry from my favorites. He answers late because real estate emergencies often clock in after dessert." "Walt," I said when he picked up. "It's Nora. Please email the title company and rescind the quitclaim appointment for Monday. I'm not transferring Larchmont." "Understood," he said. "Do you want me to draft a notice for them?" "Yes, simple and clean. Owner declines to transfer at this time. No conveyance has occurred. Also, call the county recorder Monday morning to confirm nothing erroneous gets filed." "Will do." "Everything okay?" he asked, in that tone lawyers use when they know it isn't their business, but humanity still scratches. "It will be," I said, and hung up. Then I called American Express and asked them to remove my card on file from the venue. The rep read me the last 4 digits and the posted pre-authorizations. "You have a $2,000 hold from Lakeside Harbor for tonight," she said. "Do you want to cancel the authorization?" "Keep the hold, cancel the payment profile," I said. "The venue will replace it with a new card." "Copy," she said. "Anything else?" "Yes," I said. "Cancel the Lake Cottage reservation for the honeymoon if the property hasn't charged yet." She checked. It hadn't. "And please email the itemized confirmations to my address." I walked back in. The bar captain had moved to Cash Bar pending a signature. The band tried a Motown hit. People danced with the energy of people who prefer corners. Elise's face looked like a mask left too close to a radiator. Priscilla intercepted me like a linebacker. "You small bitter woman," she spat quietly. "We welcomed you. You humiliated us. I didn't raise my voice. You called me staff. Your son's father toasted me as if I were hired help, and you laughed. I worked for what I promised, and now I'm choosing not to promise it. It's not complicated." She tried another tactic. "Think of optics. Everyone will talk." "They already are," I said, and walked past her. I took my seat in row 3, seat A, and watched my daughter dance with her husband. She didn't look at me. The map of the night had changed. I didn't need to redraw it to know where I lived on it now. At 11, the bar captain announced last call because there was no Rourke card, and the venue closed at midnight. A murmur rose like a tide. Brandon's father eventually trudged to the bar, face the color of boiled ham, and signed the payment form. The captain swiped it. The open bar reopened. A cheer went up, brittle and relieved. I retrieved the gifts from my Civic and set them by the planner's office with a note, for E and B, not mine to keep. I slid my key into the envelope too, the silver one to the bungalow I had carried since March, because I didn't want to wake up tomorrow and feel its weight and dream the soft old dream. At midnight, I hugged the planner, who had worked 2 miracles I saw and a dozen I didn't, and I left before the sparkler exit so no one could stage a candid apology. The lake wind washed the music to a whisper behind me, and I walked the long way to my car under the maple trees lining the club drive. Sunday morning, I made coffee strong enough to lift the day. I took the smart lock off the Larchmont front door and put the old Schlage back on because some symbols should be metal, not apps. I met Walt at his office and signed the notice. Owner declines to transfer at this time. He stamped it with a notary seal that clicked shut like handcuffs. We emailed a certified copy to Elise and to the Rourkes. Walt added a little paragraph at my request. Any representations of ownership made publicly or privately should be corrected to avoid confusion. Then I walked through the bungalow and did something I hadn't done since March. I allowed it to be mine, not a gift. The living room still needed paint. The sun made a rectangle on the hardwood where I imagined a rug. I ran my fingers along the porch swing chain and thought of helices of maple seeds spinning down, of the structure inside every pivot that looks like magic from afar and like math up close. By late afternoon, my phone erupted. Texts stacked like bad lab results. Elise, Mom, what are you doing? Priscilla, you will regret this. Brandon, you embarrassed us. Elise again, please just sign, please. We already told people, we're moving our stuff. I typed and erased and typed. I kept it short. We can meet with Walt and talk about a lease. We can also talk about an apology. Both are required. I didn't hit send. I waited. A nurse knows that sometimes you hand the patient water and they have to lift it themselves. They didn't respond. Instead, I saw a public post, a photo of the sweetheart table, captioned, "Some people don't know class." It had 100 likes from people who would never scrub a toilet at 2 a.m. and then show up to an 8 a.m. on time. Monday, I went to work. I changed dressings and charted and laughed at an intern who confused milligrams and micrograms, and learned the lesson in relief, not grief. In a 4-minute break, I opened an email from the title company confirming the quitclaim cancellation. No further action will be taken, the paralegal wrote. File closed. Except the Rourkes didn't like closed. They sent a demand letter through a lawyer whose office had a beach painting where the horizon leaned. He claimed promissory estoppel. He wrote about the Instagram post where I'd written in March, "Can't wait to see them make it theirs." He wrote about reliance and expectation and harm. He asked for the house, or $236,000. I forwarded it to Walt. He called the next morning and read me lines I understood even without law school. Promises conditional on a future event are not enforceable when the condition is unfulfilled, he said. You didn't sign. There's no consideration. Also, their public conduct yesterday will thrill any judge with a sense of symmetry. We filed a response. We attached copies of the emails. Invisible staff, fewer chairs. The removed mother of the bride speech. We attached screenshots of the Instagram caption. We attached the bar addendum. We attached my one-sentence announcement transcribed by the DJ, who sent it with a note, "I record everything. Best of luck." Meanwhile, practical ripples reached shore. The band invoiced the Rourkes for an overtime hour they'd pushed when the bar closed briefly. The venue charged their card the balance at 12:01 a.m. for $13,822 plus service. The honeymoon cottage rented to a retired teacher who baked cookies for the owners. The cousin who posted #RourkeRoyalty posted a different kind of story, a video of Priscilla telling me to let staff do staff, with the caption, "Yikes." Elise finally texted, "Can we talk?" We met at a coffee shop on Detroit Avenue because neutrality tastes like espresso. She walked in without the veil or the entourage and looked smaller than the dress had made her. She wore a sweatshirt with the college logo we'd financed with 1,000 bowls of nurse's chili. "I'm sorry for the staff thing," she said without preface. It spiraled. I didn't know how to stop it. "You start by not starting," I said. I kept my tone even. "You apologize when you pass the point you meant to stop. You also don't hand your mother your gifts like a busboy and tell her to park them." Her mouth wobbled. "I was scared," she said, "about being married, about money. The house felt like insurance. It was a gift until you made me invisible," I said. "A gift isn't a wage. It still asks for respect." I took out a piece of paper I had printed and folded and refolded. "We can start again smaller. Here's a 1-year lease on Larchmont for $1 a month. You and Brandon pay utilities. At the end of the year, if we've rebuilt, we can revisit a transfer. If not, we part with a clean ledger. Terms include no public disparagement of family, including me, mutual respect at gatherings, and you don't hand me your gifts like I'm a coat rack." Her eyes filled. "Brandon won't like it," she whispered. "He doesn't have to," I said. "You do." She took the paper. She read it. She didn't sign. She said she needed to talk to her husband. I said, "Of course." I slid her a second paper, an apology letter template I hadn't written to be mean. It said simply, "I'm sorry for what I said and did at the wedding. I understand why it hurt. I will fix what I can." She flinched like paper bites. The Rourkes filed their suit anyway. Walt filed our motion to dismiss. The magistrate scheduled a mediation for July 29th at the Cuyahoga County Court Annex, a windowless room where people shaped their futures in fluorescent light. We listed the things we were willing to do: offer a lease, allow them to host a respectful open house to save face, keep lawyers out of it if everyone signed and everyone stayed off Instagram. The Rourkes came in late with a whiff of perfume and outrage. The mediator wore corduroy and patience. "You can roll dice in a courtroom or you can sign paper here," he said. It's up to you. Priscilla started with theater. She ruined the most important night of our lives, she said, voice breaking on cue. She made an announcement. The mediator didn't blink. She did, he said, and you called her staff at her daughter's wedding. He tapped the screenshot in the file. This is not the forum for moral arithmetic. It's for practical peace. We settled in 3 hours. Written terms, no lawsuit, no quitclaim, 1-year lease at a market rate, not $1. Walt shook his head at that part, until I touched his sleeve and said, "It matters that they pay." We set the rent at $1,600, fair for a 2-bedroom near the lake. We included a clause about mutual respect at family events, which the mediator said he had never seen before, and then said maybe he should. We added a $500 per incident penalty payable to a charity if either party violated the respect clause publicly. I suggested the hospital foundation. Priscilla made a face and signed anyway. Except the mid-roll surge wasn't over. 2 weeks into the lease, I got a notice from the city about a code complaint, unpermitted alteration, front porch paint, with a $250 fine and $50 per day until corrected. The inspector attached a photo of the porch columns, half-painted in a dripping hue that was not sage. It was the Rourke's version of payback, petty but expensive. I didn't scream. I took my binder to City Hall. I showed the inspector the lease clause requiring written approval for changes. He nodded. "I can cite the occupant," he said. "Your name is on the deed, so you get the notice. If you give them a 10-day cure notice and they don't fix it, we escalate." I printed a 10-day notice that afternoon with the heading "Cure or Quit," even though I hoped for cure. I taped it to the front door with a piece of blue painter's tape, because I have a sense of humor when I'm alone. I texted Elise a photo. "Please scrape and repaint by August 15th to original color or color we choose together. City fine accrues $50 day. Please avoid more fines." They didn't scrape. They didn't choose. On day 11, I paid Walt $180 to file a notice of violation of lease and a demand for cure. He sent it certified. Brandon replied with a paragraph about petty tyrant. I saved it. On day 15, the inspector returned and assessed $250 plus $200 for 4 days. He issued the ticket to the occupant, Brandon Rourke. Brandon posted about it online. People who had seen the wedding video didn't clap this time. They wrote, "Just repaint. We reached a moment you can call either a spiral or a ladder." Elise came over at dusk with a metal scraper in her hand. She didn't knock the way my girl used to. She texted, "Here." I stepped onto the porch and handed her a drop cloth and a gallon of primer. We worked in the cicada hum until our shoulders ached. She scraped. I primed. Halfway through the second column, she said, very quietly, "I don't want to keep paying for the bar forever." I set the brush down. "Then don't," I said. She looked at me sidelong. "Will you hate me if I leave?" "I will never hate you," I said. "I will not be invisible for you. That's different." The next morning, she moved into the second bedroom at my apartment for a week. We didn't talk about forever. We talked about utilities and garbage day and the way grief is a location service you didn't turn on but keeps pinging anyway. She wrote an apology letter to me and one to the planner and one to the bar captain. She didn't post them. She sent them. She paid the fine. She told Brandon she wasn't coming back unless he could say my name without a joke attached. September came. The maple on Larchmont dropped helicopters on the porch we'd painted a gray we picked together in the aisle of a hardware store that smells like dust and promise. I paused every time I walked by the paint chips and touched Sage Meadow with a fingertip and didn't buy it. Not yet. The magistrate signed off on the mediation agreement formally on September 9th. No one celebrated. Practical victory feels like laundry done, not fireworks. Walt emailed me the stamped PDF and a smiley face, which is how lawyers indicate champagne. Brandon tried one more thing. He filed a complaint with the Better Business Bureau against the venue for allowing a random guest to change the bar card. The venue uploaded the addendum with my initials and the timestamp of my basal instruction. The complaint closed as resolved with documentation. The band leader sent me a photo from that night, a blurred crowd, lights like coins, me at the dais with the mic stand lowered. He wrote, "You looked like a lighthouse." I didn't feel like a lighthouse. I felt like a person who carries a small flashlight in her pocket and changes batteries on time. But it was kind of him to say. On October 1st, I signed a listing agreement with a property manager to rent the bungalow starting November 1st at $1,950 a month to a teacher named Angela, who had a lemon tree in a pot and a laugh that sounded like a blessing. Elise helped me show the place. She told prospective tenants, "It's a good porch to drink coffee on if you like flying seeds." She smiled at me when she said it. It caught. At the final walkthrough, she touched the new lease on the kitchen counter and said, "I'm going to file for separation." I didn't say finally. I said, "I'll go with you to the clerk's office if you want." She nodded. She said, "Thank you for not leaving." "I didn't leave," I said. "I changed my seat." On the morning of the first snow, I walked past the ballroom on my way to the hospital for an early shift. The lights inside glowed in the pre-dawn like a ship at anchor. Somewhere, another mother pinned a corsage and swallowed tears that weren't for sadness. Somewhere, someone practiced a speech that would land like a gift. I remembered the weight of the mic, the way the room went quiet when I chose a sentence clean enough to live in the light. I don't rehearse speeches now. I iron my scrubs. I check my flashlight. I keep keys on a ring I can count in the dark. And when the porch catches that first rectangle of winter sun, I think about helicopters spinning down, each tiny blade built to turn, not to bow.